Welcome to the Think Small podcast, hypergrowth for small businesses. So, what's slowing you down?
Well, hi again, everybody. This is Rob Godlewski with the Think Small podcast. And today our special guest is Chris Bradley. Chris is the Chief Marketing Officer of Veritiv Packaging and Supply Chain Solutions. Chris, thanks so much for joining us today.
Rob, great to be on the show. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, listen, this is a little bit of a diversion for us at the Think Small podcast. Usually we talk to business leaders and CMOs and CEOs of what we call small to mid-sized businesses, but it's definitely not where Veritiv fits today, right? But what I like about the history is that it did start off as a small to mid-sized business. And through a long history of acquisitions and strategic growth, you're definitely far from a small or mid-sized business. So, Chris, if you could, first of all, tell us a little bit about the business. What do you do? What problems you solve for customers? And then take us down a quick history lesson, if you would.
Sure. Veritiv is about a $7 billion company these days, and we are a specialty packaging distributor, is I guess how we would describe ourselves. And so we have almost 1,000 or more sales reps at this point who work across the country, work with small, medium, large size businesses to help them with their packaging solutions, as well as facility solutions, and even print. And so we've grown over a long period of time. We have a pretty rich history that goes back to almost over 100 years, from lots of different acquisitions that we've had. I actually joined Veritiv a few years ago through acquisition, where we were part of a group called Landsberg or Aurora Packaging Solutions. We were the number two packaging distributor in the North America. Veritiv was number one. And so, again, we combined forces. And Veritiv plays this really interesting role in the supply chain where we are, in essence, agnostic to the packaging solution that a customer or might need. And so we spend a lot of time, honestly, doing consulting, working with our customers to understand, what type of packaging they need. So this could be the primary packaging. Think all the things in a grocery store, from the stand-up pouches and the corrugated boxes and stuff like that. But it could also be the secondary and tertiary packaging. So corrugated boxes, stretch film, all the things that you would ship B2B to get your product, say, to your retailers or your consumers.
And maybe even the display packaging that goes into a retail store but never gets sold to a consumer, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we have a pretty incredible design team of over 120 designers, packaging engineers. And so we can design the full displays. So all the kind of retail displays that you would see in like Walmart or, different types of big retailers, the signage that's in there, the point of sale displays where you might see a product, that they're promoting, all the way down to the packaging itself. So it's pretty extensive, the type of work we do. And we're pretty entrepreneurial. So I would say what kind of fits us into the small, medium world is the way that we think. So much of our customers, we're looking for problems, and we're basically in the solutions business. Here's how we can provide it. Sometimes we do co-packing. That means that we'll actually fill the product or do kitting or assembly of the product for our customers. So think of things like advent calendars that you might see. We might sell the packaging, but we might also do the fulfillment to actually put all the products that would go in there for, say, a beauty brand or something that you might buy at CVS.
Oh, wow. That is really kind of solving an extra problem that a customer might have, right? They don't have normal labor that's devoted to packaging up advent calendars for 6 weeks out of a year. So that's great. That's a great solution to provide your customers.
And we one other thing to add is we have 121 distribution centers in North America. So in essence, for most of our customers, we're only a few miles from wherever their manufacturing or their distribution hubs are. So we've strategically located all of these locations. So for a company that maybe has 7 or 8 distribution points, we typically would have a warehouse just down the street, and we would do just-in-time inventory to basically bring over whatever packaging or other supplies that they might need just for that week or that day, so that they won't have to store that in their own facility.
Right, right. So I love what you said earlier, Chris, and that is we're an entrepreneurial $7 billion company. I love how you bring that across. And but in the solutions you provide your customers, you really have to be, because you're not selling a regular SKU out of a catalog. A lot of the packaging you do is very custom made for your client's needs. They have a widget that they need to package up and sell, and it might be in need of a lot of special protection or whatever. But you guys are there to solve those problems on a literally a case by case basis.
Yes, I would say more than 50% of the products that we sell are custom to our customer. So we do
Okay.
sell a lot of stock materials. So, you can just buy like, mailer bags or different
Sure.
types of
Tape.
stuff
Yeah.
tape that you might need. But a lot of it is really, it's got your custom brand on it. And we even do a lot of manufacturing ourselves. We have an entire corrugated manufacturing business. So you think about corrugated boxes that could be digitally printed, or they could just be brown box. That whole supply chain is something that we control from end to end.
Wow, that's incredible. So, kind of taking this off a little bit different slant from our normal conversations, because usually we are talking to that 5 or 10 or $20 million business. You're that business that's helping them get better at their business. But what I like to ask our guests here on the podcast is, you know, tell us about a time either in your history, Chris, or in the history of Veritiv, where you're dealing with periods of contracting sales or a down market, right? How do you help your customers through a challenge like that? And I'll ask it that way because you're the one helping those small customers, right? So in a really troubled time period, how do you help your customers get through that?
We see that as a real opportunity. We are a solutions partner, so customers frequently need to reduce costs, and that doesn't just mean lower the cost of the things you're already buying. I think a big part of what we do is, you need to hit this price point or you're trying to solve this problem. Let's look at the total cost of ownership and figure out how we can help you reduce your total costs. So I'll give you an example. Some of our customers
Great.
might be uh, pharmacies, for example, and they
Hmm.
are shipping cold chain packages. And so a cold chain package would be temperature controlled. So, there's this
Ah,
explosion of
okay.
GLP-1s and other types of drugs, and they come in basically boxes with insulation and other materials or refrigerants in it. And so if the market is going down and they're constrained on cost, the first thought you might have is, well, let's try to see if we can take cost out from our suppliers. But what we will do is we'll look at, well, maybe we can help you save money on freight by reducing the size of the box so that you get
Hmm.
under a different dimensional weight cost. Or how can we provide the product to you um, daily or weekly? And now you can take warehouse space that you are using today and you can move that to us so that you could either expand your own operations by putting in an additional line. So we're always kind of looking at the bigger picture and say, what is the problem? If you need more sales, what could you do? Maybe our customers, again, are constrained by their own warehouse space. That's usually a place where we can provide a big value add. by moving the materials that they are storing to us, taking that total cost of ownership. So imagine they're holding $10 million worth of inventory, and they can actually push that back to us. Now maybe they're only holding $5 million worth of inventory. And so those carrying costs go way down. So we look at that as the total cost of ownership of doing whatever our customer is trying to do. So it's not just like the materials we're selling them, it's the how we deliver it, who owns what, do we do kind of that assembly ourselves. We also have a big, for example, automation business. So we'll come in and do a packaging audit. And the first thing we typically would see for a small, medium business is we come in and we see a whole bunch of people packing boxes or doing mailing shippers. So we can come into and say, hey, we know that you're struggling. Either you can't hire enough people or you're trying to reduce costs. Maybe we can create automated lines for you. And maybe that's just a box erecting machine. It could be as simple as that. But we can do the math to say, look, you got 10 people that are doing this and you can't get through a shift. We can add in a couple smart machines, and now you can double your capacity, or you can take out labor costs, things like that.
Interesting. So really you're there to be that kind of outside voice to identify those new opportunities for cost savings, not necessarily just sit there and say, take 10% out of your price.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So
Well,
it's the value added. Those are the value added services that come along with the work that we do. It's not just that we distribute packaging. You can buy packaging from anyone, but when we're looking at it, we're trying to say, how can we help our customers be more successful in their business, and that could take on a lot of different approaches.
So that's a great example of helping a small business get through those times when they do need to, tighten their belts and work through a period of their contracting sales. That's great. So flipping the coin on that, Chris.
Everybody right now too, I'll just say, with
Yeah.
the cost of oil and thus the cost of plastics have
Yes.
exploded in price. And so we're also helping people make conversions to
Oh,
paper
from a
or,
plastic material to something else.
yeah, plastics, maybe to fiber-based materials. There was a big push for a while where when all the tariffs started increasing, we could push people to domestic sources of supply, and they were like importing it from China in the past, for example. So
Right.
there's all those supply chain inputs that you can move around, that we're probably in a better position than most to be able to help our customers navigate.
That's awesome. So then flipping the coin on that question is, how do you help a customer like that through times of rapid growth, right? Their hair's on fire, they're selling everything that isn't bolted down, and how can you help a business navigate crazy times of growth? Because as you and I both know, Chris, the problems that come up in rapid revenue acceleration are sometimes more challenging than a period of sales contraction. So walk us through that if you would.
Yeah, I think that is a really exciting time for us to show up, because when we have lots of customers that are going through that situation, some of the constraints that they're usually up against, again, are either they don't have enough warehouse space or manufacturing space, and so they're looking, hey, I have to expand and more, and so we can often be the relief valve on that. So the first thing we'd look at is, okay, you're in a 20,000 square foot facility, 10,000 is warehouse, and you got all of this packaging and other materials up in the rafters. We can actually hold that inventory for you in our distribution center, located probably just down the street, and do daily deliveries to you. And you can now convert some of that space to an extra line to be able to put more throughput through your factory. And so a lot of our customers, if you actually go look at the way their manufacturing operations are designed, because of the way that they work with us, you go into the factory and there's no warehouse space. It's because we kind of
Uh,
hold that. We bring in what they need just in time for the day. They build it, everything, and they ship it
right.
out. And the next day, our truck shows up, drops off just what they need. We also do, again, we talked about kitting. And so a lot of our
Mm,
customers, they may have had people that were like putting foam or other type of packaging in boxes to create these kits to say take like an electronics device or something. So we would actually build all of that for them and just bring the box, and they would just basically set the set top box or whatever it is right inside the box. We've also done a lot of things where companies are struggling with their own return operations or refurbishment operations, and we can help them manage through that process as well. And so
oh,
I guess
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say, so we usually just start with, where is the pain and what do we have in our bag of tricks that could potentially take some of that pain away so that you could grow the way that you want. Um, we also do a lot of work with, say, fast growing consumer packaged goods brands that maybe they started out in a few stores and now they're going into Walmart or into Target or into Costco. We have designers on our team that we know exactly what the design specs are
Oh,
or how to get into those types of distribution. So they're like, hey, this is great news. Walmart just agreed to take us on in, 150 stores. But now we have to actually build like a pallet shipper or a display for Costco, um, and it has to meet all of the demanding requirements that they're going to put something that goes into Sam's Club or Costco. So we can actually say, hey, we understand that very well. We'll put our
right.
designers who are expert on that. We'll design that process and help them manage that supply chain to be able to achieve that type of growth.
Because knowing a little bit about big box retail operations, they have very precise specifications, not only on their products that they sell through their stores, but on the packaging itself, how it's received, how it's put out on the shelf, how it's, the sizing and how many SKUs need to fit in a certain piece of packaging. And the manufacturer of the product doesn't innately know that. So with your experience, you can come in and say, nope, you need it. It needs to look like A, B, C, and D. And here are the dimensions, and here are the requirements, and here are the materials. And I bet you that saves them a ton of time.
No, it really does. And again, each retailer is a little different. Like Costco
Sure.
requires typically for it to be, they call it shoppable by multiple sides of the pallet. So you can't have everything just facing one direction. And they know that people are going to be, buying product from the sides.
Oh,
Has to
yeah, sure.
certain requirements for stackability and other things that you're just not going to know unless you've been through that before. And you're not going to necessarily just get by reading a spec sheet that the retailer provides to you. It's a lot of it is kind of tribal knowledge from having done it and having had rejections and things that have gone through. And so we always look at it as, hey, we can help save time um, and cost by helping you do it right kind of the first time.
Chris, you mentioned helping out with a returns process, and I know that with the advent of e-commerce, the challenge of what do I do with all of these returns coming back from e-commerce orders? I mean, shoot, it's become normal practice for a consumer to buy, three different sizes of the same items, knowing that they're going to return two of them. And so that puts a ton of pressure on a manufacturer to deal with. Holy cow, what do I do with this? I don't have a process for this. I don't have systems for this. And that's an area where Veritiv can come in and offer solutions as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the, a common area, even for small, mid-sized companies, is you come up with a widget. It's this great thing. People love it. They're buying it. You get it manufactured in Asia, where you have it prepackaged and everything. So
Hmm.
now you receive in pallets of this product. You're shipping it and selling it on Amazon or wherever, and now you start receiving them back. The things that you receive back, um, are probably in perfect condition in the scenario that you just mentioned, but maybe they ripped the box or it was damaged in shipment. So now what do you do? So a lot of the packaging that we provide in that scenario would be either a secondary or refurbished packaging, or so that you could actually repack those kind of good returns so that you can get them back into the
Hmm.
market. And so we do that for a lot of the biggest players in the industry. Um, and so oftentimes you'll even see, well, they'll sell it as a refurbished product. There's whole kitting operations where we could help design a process to take those back, put them in, inspect them and make sure that everything is fine. And if it is, take the product, repackage it so that you can resell it and not lose money on every one of those orders.
Interesting, interesting. So tell me then about what the future holds for Veritiv in that, you're focused on the small and mid-size type of customers, right? You're focusing on the think small audience here, which I love. But what does that mean in the future for Veritiv? What does the next, say, 3 to 5 years look like for you?
I think there's a lot of factors that are going to change the way the world operates over the next 3 to 5 years. We play a big role in sustainable packaging. So
Hmm.
there's things that have new regulations that are coming in the United States called EPR. This is extended producer responsibility, which
Mm.
in states like Oregon, California, Colorado, they're basically taking the responsibility for the end of life of that packaging and they're putting it back onto the responsibility of the producer. So that is the small, medium business that's shipping product. They're actually now going to have to pay fees based on like the pounds of plastic or other materials that they're using. So we have what's called our Sustainable Design Lab. And
Mm.
a lot of the work that we're doing now, and I would say for the most forward thinking part of our customer base, they're looking at, well, how do I transition the packaging and the things that I'm using to ship to reduce that regulatory cost burden and also consumers care. There's a lot of consumers that really care about waste. And so we can help them navigate from packaging that wasn't sustainable before to more sustainable packaging. And then I guess the next area would be we can't in 2026 not talk about the impact of AI and how that's going to really transform so much of business.
Yeah,
The
that's
way
that's come up a few times on this podcast for sure. And I say that facetiously, Chris. It's come up literally every conversation I have. So that's great. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah. And in fact, I lead our AI transformation lab as well. And so it's really looking at how do we use agentic AI to better serve our customers. And so there's so many ways that we see that it can actually drive value
Yeah.
in the supply chain.
And and let's talk about that for a minute. What have you seen so far that is adding value to your customers and making Veritiv a more um, a more integrated partner in your customers' businesses via AI?
Yeah, so we're experimenting right now, and again, AI is really still early days for a lot of the true agentic capabilities that are coming.
I
But
would
we're
agree.
already using it to, you know, take off some of um, the more manual tasks that some of our customer service and other reps might do, and put that on the shoulders of AI to do things like manual order entry, et cetera.
Hmm.
And what that does is it frees up time from our customer service professionals and sales reps and others so that they can actually be doing the higher value added work that our customers need, instead of being bogged down in some of the more manual things. So that was one of the first places that we looked. We're also using it to do better network analysis. We've built digital twins of our entire network so that we can figure out how do we route products through the system, um, as it relates
Oh,
to.
from a logistics improvement standpoint, then.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So we can take all of the rich data that we've collected and we can use that data with AI to figure out how to better serve our customers, lower the total cost, lower the total time that it might take to transport a product. And we're also building recommendation engines in AI. So we still have like humans who will be giving the recommendations, but they're empowered by AI systems that know all of the possible options. One of the biggest challenges in packaging distribution is we sell products from 7,000 suppliers. So how could I, as one human, know all the products that those 7,000
Right.
suppliers could provide to you? So we're building these embedded AI systems that are like product recommendation engines used by our team, so that when I come in and I interview you and say, how can I help you in your business? And you show me your problems, I can instantly go find these are the best solutions at the right price that are going to serve your specific problem without having to
Right.
go navigate 100 websites and trying to find, well, who sells this and that type of thing.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. And you'll be happy to know, Chris, that in these discussions with small and mid-sized business leaders through guests of the podcast, um, that message resonates so much in that they're looking for productivity and efficiency and enhancements, and even some IT providers, people that are integrating AI into their clients' business, are looking at AI so they can spend more human time with their customers. And you just mentioned that, right? So you can have your salespeople and your customer service people do that more value added activity. So it's good to know that, and I hope I'm not putting words into your mouth, but you're not looking at AI as a headcount reduction tool. You're looking at AI as,
No,
yeah, go ahead.
definitely not. And I think maybe in the beginning people saw that as the potential, but those of us that are really deep into the movement of AI today,
Yeah,
we actually see that it will probably create more jobs than it will take away,
I
but we'll
love
be
that.
so much more productive. I have teams of agents that are working right now while we're doing this podcast, but they still need me to basically lead them. So I have like five different agents that are doing five different things, but they're not fully autonomous. They still need a human in the loop to guide the next interaction, to really set how and what they're going to do next. So I really believe that the future of AI is human, humans that are augmented with AI is really where the future will go versus AI is coming for all of our jobs. It may come for some jobs, but I think it will actually just transition the types of jobs that we do. And there will be this need for people who really understand how AI works.
Yeah.
And we can just be 10x more productive per human in the work that we do. Doesn't mean that we're going to now cut 9 people. It means we're just going to grow the business faster and better. And that's the way I look at it.
I agree, Chris. And in fact, I remember one of my guests saying, Rob, AI is not going to displace your employees. People that know AI are going to displace your employees. So I that resonated with me, right? So, well, let's just train our people to be, AI knowledgeable and expert, and then they'll be the ones replacing themselves, right? In a good way. They'll be the ones being that much more productive and efficient. I love it. This is great. Clearly, you're a very large business. You have a long history of growth by acquisition. I don't think that's probably going to stop anytime soon, right? Are there, you don't have to say specifically, but I'm sure, you know, acquisition activity is going to keep going at Veritiv.
Oh yeah, so we're definitely on an acquisition spree, and are looking to grow both organically and inorganically.
Hmm.
So we are private equity backed, and part of that
Okay.
is to grow and find other businesses that are similar to what we do, that we can actually be better together by kind of being part of our kind of expansive network. And so
Hmm.
we're definitely looking to grow significantly over the next several years through acquisition, as well as what we do just through organic growth.
That's awesome. So what, if anything, would be holding you back, or what's stopping you from achieving that growth?
Um, it's a great question. So there's so many forces that are constantly at bear against us, the rising gas costs and everything else. So we are growing and we're, navigating everything that gets thrown at us, from tariffs to high gas costs to, shortages of certain materials, regulatory burdens. So I don't think there's as much of a barrier to growth as it's just being super resilient to whatever
Mm,
the market throws at us, and wherever the market expands and contracts, how do we react to be able to take advantage of some of those growth opportunities? You see things like the infrastructure build of digital infrastructure and data centers and all of that. So that's an area that's growing. And there's certain other parts of the economy that are starting to contract. So I think it's just, again, being resilient so that you can achieve growth, even though you may have, you know, puts and takes in the overall kind of model of what we're building.
resiliency. That's the theme of the day, Chris. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's probably the perfect, word or phrase to kind of leave us today. So, Chris, any last words of advice for your small to mid-sized business customers about how they're thinking about navigating their own growth?
I guess what I would say is, I spent a good part of my career running small and mid-sized businesses. And, oftentimes I was using uh, packaging companies or things like Uline or Amazon to buy my materials. There is, at some point, there is an opportunity, I think, to really expand your capability with a company like Veritiv, that can service you in a way that's probably different than what you're doing today. And so I would certainly encourage you, even if it's not us, to look at what packaging distribution can do that's different than how you're growing today.
Mm,
Um, and then also look towards the future, find ways that you can embed AI into everything that you do. I think um, that is, to me, the biggest opportunity right now. It's you're either going to be a laggard or you're going to be a leader in your specific field as it relates to AI. And I certainly encourage everybody to embrace it. I have, in fact, I have my own podcast called the AI Transformation Lab podcast, which helps small,
that's
medium, and
great.
we built it for our customers for how do you adopt AI in your business so that you can be successful in this kind of next chapter.
Oh, perfect. Well, we'll do what we can to promote that podcast as well,
Thank you.
right? It's all about getting the message out there and improving the business and the lives of business leaders of small to mid-sized businesses. So, Chris Bradley, this has been a great conversation. Not one I expected, as far as a guest on the Think Small podcast, but it was so relevant and in so many ways. So, Chris Bradley, Chief Marketing Officer for Veritiv Packaging and Supply Chain Solutions. Thank you so much for your time on the Think Small podcast today, Chris.
Thank you, Rob. It's great to have you. Good to be here.
Welcome to the Think Small podcast, hypergrowth for small businesses. So, what's slowing you down?